In our very first story, the Ghana Health Service has issued a cholera alert, and the Greater Accra Regional Health Directorate has set up 10 isolation units at health facilities to deal with a possible outbreak of cholera. Regional Director Dr. Linda Vanotu says medical supplies and equipment have also been dispatched to the units, but warned the public against unhygienic practices.
Cholera is a preventable disease linked to filth. The disease can be contracted mainly through basic unhygienic practices. An example is eating contaminated food and not washing hands before eating. The disease thrives more in densely populated communities where refuse is left unattended for weeks. Similarly, foods sold not too far away from refuse bins could be detrimental to the health of people. Signs of the disease are frequent loose watery stools and vomiting. The disease is prevalent with the onset of the rains.
We have our base that have been built for us. The south we have in La General Hospital, we have some in Achimota. And however, every facility is entreated to have a place where they can keep cases if we should have any cases in those facilities, because the treatment must be as fast as possible. Otherwise, somebody might die.
The Greater Accra Regional Director of the Ghana Health Service, Dr. Linda Vanotu, said medical supplies and equipment have been dispatched to various health facilities to contain possible outbreak. She advised sick persons to visit health facilities early to avoid needless deaths.
A few years back, when we had the major outbreak, we looked at those who died and we realized that some of them got to the hospital very late. We don't want that to happen. That is why we want people to go to the nearest health facility. If you start having diarrhea, if you start vomiting, just go to the nearest health facility. If you get there and it is not cholera, still you'll be treated for whatever it is.
So workers of the Electricity Company of Ghana, ECG, are demanding that government makes the revised concession agreement under the Millennium Challenge Corporation Compact 2 public. Meanwhile, the Africa Center for Energy Policy, ASEP, says a public listing of ECG on the stock exchange is the best viable alternative to increase investment in the power distributor.
Akufo-Addo, in his May Day address, noted government had amended terms of the agreement requiring Ghanaians to own 51% of the concession. He assured workers there would be no involuntary layoffs and the period for the agreement reduced from 25 to 20 years. But workers of ECG, represented by the Public Utilities Workers Union (PUU), say the details are too sketchy and government should make public the revised concession agreement.
We don't know what has been given to draw conclusions. 51 of what? Are we talking of 51 of ECG shares that is being offloaded, or is it 51 of a new joint venture between ECG and a concessionaire? Or is it a 51 of two entities that are coming to made up of some Ghanaians and some foreigners? All these are not clear.
PUU says it is disappointed at the level of engagement between ECG workers and government, despite efforts to ensure a revision of the terms of the agreement.
A lot of our members feel very, very disappointed. We believe that if some form of a dialogue or a meeting has taken place, and government has explained its position that this and these are the options we are pushing at, the executive power is in the hands of the president.
Meanwhile, the Africa Center for Energy Policy, ASEP, says government should broaden stakeholder consultation to ensure the restructuring of the power distributor through the Ghana Power Compact takes off.
Much of the difficulty ECG has today has to do with the politicians. The frequent interference in procurement, frequent interference in management is what has brought the company to where it is today. And the only way forward is to reduce that level of interference or eliminate it entirely.
According to the policy think tank, ECG would be better off being listed on the stock exchange.
Okay, so that's the pool, and indeed, civil society organizations making that particular call. I'd order to go on Skype right now and engage further on this position. Ismail Ejikumhene is the executive director of Kite Ghana and an energy expert. He joins me via Skype. Mr. Ejikumhene, good evening to you if you can hear me.
Good evening.
Thank you for joining us. Now, Pool is saying that they want some better and further particulars about this 51% that government is talking about, Ghanaian ownership, and then the other aspects of the agreement that has been amended. Is it this position that you would subscribe to from Pool?
Well, I think for Pool, they've been fighting this cause, and if for any reason there is a suggestion that things have been amended or modified, I think it's in order for them to demand for copies of the amended agreement. So I wouldn't fault them for demanding for the amended agreement. What I'm not too sure is whether or not they would be satisfied after they've seen whatever is in that agreement, because it appears their position is no private sector involvement in the utility. So whether or not that will be satisfactory as and when they get to see the agreement, I'm not too sure.
Okay, but then how about this particular call for further consultation? Because that's what Pool is talking about, that they weren't consulted before these final amendments were made. And then also, ASEP is also calling for some further broadened engagement between government and the stakeholders in the energy sector.
Well, I am not very sure there is room for this kind of consultation that Pool is asking for at this stage of the compact agreement. I am not very sure. I believe that if there were to be that space, the government would have brought them to the table. I know this renegotiation took place in the US. If what we hear is correct, then unless the Pool people were there, they wouldn't be able to be part of the negotiation. What I'm not sure, and I mean, let anybody prove me wrong, I'm not sure the compact as it is now is open to a lot of negotiations or renegotiations after Parliament has ratified the agreement. So I suspect that Pool probably they may be fighting at the wrong time, and I'm not sure they're going to get that platform to talk the way they want to discuss this issue with the government, because the government itself doesn't seem to have any much control over exactly whether or not the concession is going to go ahead or not. The compact came as a package, and once we sign up to it, we are in it or we are not in it at all. I'm not very sure whether the private sector entities we want to lure into the sector are willing to accept anything that is different from what they probably may have been informed. So consultation in every process is very, very important, but whether or not we are not too late in the day, I'm not too sure.
Now, Mr. Ejikumhene, I would like you to just hold on a bit while I acknowledge the former Deputy Power Minister, John Jenapo, who's also joined us on the telephone. Mr. Jenapo, good evening to you if you can hear me.
Good evening.
Thank you for joining us on the telephone. Mr. Ejikumhene, one of the concerns that has been raised is the possible impact of this renegotiated position on the agreement, because we've gone beyond the RSQ position. We are in the RST position now. You are having an investor who is coming in with a minimum of $250 million and having a minimum hold in terms of 49% as his share in this whole agreement. How is that, if there's any possible impact of or on the agreement as it stands now, how MEDA is going to respond to this?
I think that we ought to tread cautiously, and I've had cause to advise government to be careful with some of the utterances they are making. And as is rightly said, you expect the company.
So Mr. Ejikumhene, I would have you hold on a bit because Mr. Jenapo, I would come to you, but I want to find out specifically from Mr. Jungbehene what he makes of this, if there's going to be any further impact or anything of the sort going forward with this renegotiated position on the agreement.
Well, if it's renegotiated, it's obviously going to delay full implementation of the compact. So, and whether or not the private, whoever is selected is still interested in a deal that has been significantly modified. I mean, 5 years in a concession is long enough to have a lot of implication on the cash flows, and also how much money they will be willing to commit to the concession. So anything that will be renegotiated, whoever is going to be selected will take that into consideration. Plus, I am a little bit concerned about whether or not a private entity is allowed to decide and determine what labor force or workforce it needs to operate efficiently. If we tie their hands to a situation where they cannot, and again, that's something that wasn't very clear to me yesterday, whether the moratorium that the president on job losses, as the president explained yesterday, is for 5 years or it's for the entire duration of the compact. If it's for the entire duration, then again, the private sector entity will still have to factor that into their decision-making process and decide whether they want to go ahead with it or not. But to insist also that a Ghanaian company should have 51% involvement in the whole process, I am also wondering how that is also going to evolve, because this is not an outright sale. So it means that there has to be a consortium that would have more than a lot more Ghanaian involvement than it probably would have been.
Absolutely.
Let us also bear in mind that when the bid was open, there were no restrictions. Okay. Now,
thank you, Mr. Jikomene. Now, let me go on to Mr. Jenapo now. You have engaged MEDA, and indeed, you fronted the initial original agreement which was ratified by Parliament. Now, these three major changes have been made. What is your position on this, to the extent that you went in giving the concessionaire 80%, a new government has come in saying that I can give 51% ownership to Ghanaians and 49% to the concessionaire?
Well, as I indicated, during our time we had extensive engagement with MEDA. We discussed all these issues, and the position from IFC, which happened to be the consultant and technical advisor, was that if we were to give a minority stake to the concessionaire, it could derail the process. And we had confidence in them, and so we thought that giving a minority to a company that will invest over $250 million could affect the entire process. And I think there's been some legitimate concern about that. But if government believes that it can still move on with 51% majority stake for Ghanaians, better. Just that I would want to caution that going forward, we could have serious challenges with the way we are restructuring it.
Now, but what did you go into the negotiations with in your term of office, to the extent that you could just negotiate for 20% for Ghanaians, Ghanaian ownership of 20%? What exactly was your position in the whole negotiation process?
No, you could have Ghanaians even holding 100%. Nothing prevented a Ghanaian company from putting in a bid. But we said that in the event that we are having a foreign entity, would reserve 20% for Ghanaians. But as it stands, even without the amendment, Ghanaian companies can participate, and a fully fledged Ghanaian company could win the bid. So it's not as if we're restricting Ghanaian companies from owning a majority stake. All we said was that we're reserving 20%, surely and definitely as a matter of principle, for Ghanaians, assuming eventually we didn't have a Ghanaian company winning that bid.
But you indicated that you're going to write to MEDA for clarity on this?
Yes, I have said that. I've said that I'll write. I need formal clarity so that we can put all the issues within the proper perspective and discuss them, because these are serious, germane issues that borders on the power sector. And if we don't handle it properly, if we don't handle it with caution, we could run into serious challenges that will affect the whole nation.
And what are some of these challenges you're talking about, finally?
As you said, we've gone past the RFQ stage. We are at the RFQ stage. The RFQ was based on the principle that a minimum of 80% will go to the new company. Now, if you are changing it and giving the so-called new company only 49%, and still expecting the company to pump in $250 million without having majority share, which means that they would not manage it, how does that go? I think that these are serious issues that all of us should avert our minds to.
Right. Judge Jonapo, I want to thank you very much and have a good evening.
Thank you.
Grateful. John Jonapo is a former Deputy Power Minister joining us on the telephone. Mr. Jacobine, I would want to thank you very much for your time this evening. I'm grateful.
Pleasure.
Great. Mr. Jacobine is also the Executive Director of Kite Ghana Energy Expert, also with his thoughts on this portion. So there's a lot more we're going to be getting into, but these issues still come about. The University Teachers Association of Ghana, UTAG, has served notice to government to reconstitute councils of public universities or risk industrial unrest on various campuses across the country. Its national president, Dr. Harry Agbanu, said the delay has affected the promotion of lecturers and approval of expenditure for the universities to operate.
UTAG is worried 4 months after the new administration took over, it is yet to constitute councils for public universities. President of the association, Dr. Harry Agbanu, said government is yet to respond to a petition sent to the Education Ministry. The delay, according to UTAG, has affected promotions of lecturers and also approval of expenditures for the universities to operate.
In Sunyani, they don't have a registrar. And for 5 good months and still counting, that they don't have, council in place to be able to appoint for them a registrar is creating unnecessary anxiety on our campus.
Also, key strategic decisions, including recruitment of staff and some negotiations, have all been halted due to the absence of the council, a situation which is impacting negatively on academic progress on campuses of the 10 public universities.
Beyond the week, I don't know what is going to happen, because I can assure you that there are agitations on our campuses.
Let's now continue with the rest of our stories. And President Akufo-Addo has left Accra to begin the first phase of a 3-nation tour. The 6-day tour takes him to immediate neighbors Togo, Burkina Faso, and La Côte d'Ivoire. The president will again pay working visits to Nigeria, Senegal, Guinea, Benin, Cape Verde, and then finally to Liberia and Sierra Leone in the second phase, according to a release signed by Director of Communications at the Presidency. The visits will afford President Akufo-Addo the opportunity to introduce himself as the new Ghanaian leader and formally to the government and people of the neighboring countries, explore and deepen bilateral relations, and reiterate Ghana's full commitment to the ECOWAS project. The president will be accompanied by the Foreign Affairs Minister, Shirley Ayoko-Butri, and officials of the ministry and the presidency. President Akufo-Addo will return to Ghana from the first phase of his tour on Sunday, May 7. And in other news, Ghana maintained the 26th position in the 2017 World Press Freedom Index with no incidents of abuse, making it the second best in Africa after Namibia. Eritrea, the worst performing African country, is 179 on the index. May 3 is set aside to celebrate the fundamental principles of press freedom as well as evaluate press freedom the world over. We now bring you a news desk report on World Press Freedom Day.
World Press Freedom Day was proclaimed by the UN General Assembly in December 1993 following the recommendation of the United Nations Educational, Scientific and Cultural Organization, UNESCO's General Conference. The day is also used to pay tribute to journalists who have lost their lives in the line of duty. The 2017 World Press Freedom Day is on the theme Critical Minds for Critical Times, Media's Role in Advancing Peaceful, Just and Inclusive Society. The United Nations Secretary General, Antonio Guterres, has called for an end to all crackdowns against journalists.
You need everyone to stand for our right to truth, On World Press Freedom Day, I call for an end to all crackdowns against journalists, because a free press advances peace and justice for all.
This year's celebration focuses on strengthening free and quality journalism to enable the media effectively contribute to the achievement of the Sustainable Development Goal 16. While the Millennium Development Goals (MDGs) that guided the international community's development efforts between 2000 and 2015 made no explicit mention of the media's role, the Sustainable Development Goals (SDGs) recognize the importance of public access to information and fundamental freedoms, which includes freedom of expression. According to the 2016 UNESCO Director General's report on the safety of journalists and the danger of impunity, 827 journalists and media workers have been killed in the last decade. Even more alarming is the fact that only 8% of these cases have been resolved. The ranking by the Reporters Without Borders ranks 180 countries of the world according to media independence, self-censorship, rule of law, and transparency, highlights the danger of a tipping point in the state of media freedom, especially in leading democratic countries. Norway ranks number 1 with a score of 7.60 in 2017, with North Korea scoring 84.98 and sitting at the bottom of the rankings at the 180th position. Ghana maintained its 26th position in the 2017 World Press Freedom Index with no incident of abuse. The country also had the same score of 17.95, the same as in 2016. In 2016, Ghana dropped 4 places from 22 on the 2015 index to 26. Are journalists targeted for exercising their profession? What protection mechanisms exist for journalists? How effectively are attacks and violations against journalists investigated? The current state of safety of journalists worldwide is discouraging.
Thanks for staying with us on News 360. Let's do some business now. My name is Nanikia Mensah Brampe. Starting with tonight, fuel prices are expected to decline by between 2 and 4% for the first price window in May. World markets indexes have also gone down below $50 a barrel, currently around $46 a barrel. Meanwhile, the prices keep swinging. We'll be looking at that later. But the cedi has also gained about 2% during the last pricing window. So that is the percentage we are looking at for the prices of fuel. Later in subsequent bulletins, we'll be giving you detail on how it will really be for super diesel as well as the rest. But moving on, the Association of Oil Marketing Companies has challenged government to deal with diversion and illegal sale of petroleum products. At a news conference in Accra, coordinator for the association, Kweku Ajimendria, noted the illegality resulted in the loss of 850 million cedis through tax evasion last year.
The association accused those involved in diverting petroleum products meant for export to landlocked countries to domestic markets. It again criticized them for using unapproved routes without going through customs to sell petroleum products on the local market. The association expressed concern the activities of the illegal operators could cause fire outbreaks. Kweku Ajimendria is a coordinator for the association.
In all this period, 1 year, we have been talking. We have been giving information. You know, we felt that right now we need the state machinery, big one, and that's why we are calling on His Excellency the President. He is the Commander-in-Chief of the Armed Forces. He is the Chief Executive of Ghana. He's the one who can command people to just stand tall to the problems that we are having.
He again raised concerns the illegal activities of these individuals could make government to lose 1 billion cedis before the end of this year. According to the association, government in 2016 lost 850 million cedis through tax evasion by the illegal operator.
It is estimated that if this issue is not stopped now and the trend continues, government will be losing over 1 billion Ghana cedis by the end of this year. We have indeed witnessed a volume drop by 90% in February 2017 alone. This is very, very, very alarming.
The illegality, the association indicated, could cause a layoff of 4,000 workers by the end of the month.
We are giving the government 48 hours to bring this menace to an end. We firmly believe that the government has the requisite authority, tools, instruments, and relevant resources, such as security institutions, to stamp out this menace within this period.
And we've been picking some signals also on the fact that the Bank of Ghana has placed a cap on tenure of office for CEOs. Management consultant Charles Mensah has welcomed moves by the central bank to place this cap on tenure for chief executives. The latest proposal, he noted, although belated, will restore some sanity within the financial services sector and also promote good corporate governance.
It's long overdue and it's come at the right time. I really endorse that because it's going to pave way for the young ones also to come into the limelight, because for CEO of a bank, 5 years, 10 years, 15 years, that's a lot of years. I mean, I would have proposed that we do 10 years, but if we start off with 15 years, fair enough. But it's an important that at least you have an exit strategy as a managing director, that at a point in time you would exit. And therefore, once you would exit, you prepare other people also to come on board.
Why are we seeing all these reforms within the banking industry at this particular time?
I think usually the strength of your financial services sector, i.e. the banking sector, is a good point, or is a foundation for the growth of other sectors, because every sector of this economy has to be funded, and to fund it you need a very strong financial services center.
We know the central bank is proposing the upping of the minimum capital. We understand their proposals to 260, 300, some have suggested. When you speak to industry players, they say this is coming at a good time because we're going to have a lot more consolidation within the banking industry. Is that something you foresee happening?
We have, because if you recall, we've spoken about this quite some time, that if anybody wants to raise, a loan for a project, no single bank can raise that, because you are limited about the single obligor. So you cannot expose the bank beyond 15% or so. I don't know the rates now, but it's about 15%. So that also means that if the project is beyond that, then you have to do syndication. But if we increase the stated capital, I'm sure most banks can do single ticket thing. I'm sure most banks will now sit upright and then probably look at real banking.
In other news tonight, Friends of the Coventry University have organized a training program for its alumni in entrepreneurship. The training seeks to empower the youth in taking up business initiatives that would create job opportunities for others.
The Coventry alumni has a 5,000 membership base in Ghana and has been embarking on social support ventures such as health screening, donations and other community impact projects. The alumni training is one of such ventures which was partnered by the Ghana Technology University to empower the youth. Trainees from different business backgrounds also shared ideas on best ways to empower youth in rural communities. One of the alumni, Mutaru Mumuni Mokhtar, said he has been able to stop at least 20 people from extremism and joining terrorist groups. He has presently set up the West Africa Center for Counter-Extremism to reduce cases of terrorism.
Entrepreneurship has a significant role in terms of individuals' propensity to become radicalized or to engage in terrorism or violence itself. Because if you're engaged in entrepreneurship, it can help you economically. It takes you off, the path towards radicalization.
The head of alumni and development of the Coventry University, Steve Koval, underscored the need to broaden the scope of the training to empower more people.
We will continue to support them in their endeavours and hope that they can take the skills that they've acquired from studying with us, either at Coventry University or GTUC, and make society a better place.
The Friends of Coventry University is an alumni association which is open to all graduates from different universities.
There's more news on our website, 3news.com. My name is Nanikia Mensah-Brampa. Let's go back to Alfred and Portia with the rest of the bulletin.
Thank you very much, Nanikia.
Right.
Agriculture is regarded the backbone of Ghanaian economy, yet the younger generation appear not to be interested in this sector. 16-year-old Andrew Adansibona is therefore championing a cause to encourage young people to venture into agriculture.
Andrew Adansibona is a UN Youth Ambassador for SDG 2, which seeks to end hunger, achieve food security and improved nutrition, and promote sustainable agriculture. Andrew has championed the Food for All program over the past 4 years. His aim is to promote food security in the country and whip up interest in the youth to take agriculture seriously as one that would boost the economy. The second-year senior high school agric student in 2016 launched the first national school children's gardening and small animal rearing competition for 81st and 2nd cycle schools across the country.
I had 255 schools, and because this is a maiden edition for the competition, I had to slash it down to 80 schools. The schools which registered were complaining of their school not having these basic items, and they were also waiting for opportunities like this for them to also have a feel of what agriculture really entails.
The competition amongst the schools is to revamp gardening in schools and improve the nutritional value of the school feeding program. Andrew is appealing for gardening tools and vegetable seeds for the 80 participating schools before May 15, 2017, the end of the planting season.
I'm pleading to the public for gardening tools and seeds and materials for this competition to be a success. Shovels, hand forks, cutlasses, mattocks, watering cans, wheelbarrows, digging tools, for the seeds, tomatoes, basic vegetable seeds, tomatoes, cucumber, carrots, pepper.
Beneficiary schools will be competing in gardening and rabbitry.
So thumbs up to young Bona, right?
Absolutely, and you know, planting for food and jobs. You know, you need to be encouraged.
You're still watching News 360 from the News Hub.
Elsewhere, new Ghana coach Kwesi Appiah began his first day of work today with heavy expectation from football fans. A key question for many followers of the Ghana Premier League is if his appointment will lead to more local participation in the Black Stars. Nane Ikuya has been finding out the expectation of some local players off the back of Appiah's appointment.
It is something every advocate of the local game wants to see. A lot more involvement of home-based players in the Black Stars. And as Kwesi Appiah begins his latest 2-year stint with the Black Stars, some of the home-based players are hoping he will give them a fair crack of the whip. Representation of home-based players in major Black Stars games has hit an all-time low, with Richard Ofori the only player to play any minutes at the last Nations Cup. In Appiah's first reign, they didn't fare any better, with only one outfield player in his squad for the 2013 Nations Cup and one, a goalkeeper, in his 2014 World Cup squad. Liberty Professionals captain Samuel Safo is more than convinced the home-based players can enrich the team and wants Appiah to pay particular attention.
Now, as his arrival, I think we the local players too, I think we should also be alert, you understand, in all ways, you know, when we're playing. We should be professional, you understand, so that at least when we get the call up, we can also make some difference and also match up with the professional players that comes.
Often, the argument has been that there is just not enough quality in the Ghana Premier League to boost the Black Stars. Felix Romark, who covers the league for social media platforms, disagrees.
There's a lot of quality in the Ghana League. It's if you fail to tap them, or if you fail to watch some of these games, then you might think that we don't have the quality. But we have good players in the Ghana League who, for Kwesi being in charge now, I know that they can make it to the local Blasters, and there they will get the opportunity to represent the Blasters.
So many of the players, including Hearts of Oak's Thomas Abe, are hoping they get their big breakthrough.
we are so happy for him to come back to the Black Star again. I think he always be here for the local league to assess the players. I think this time around the local players will get a chance to penetrate to the senior team.
Onto a story that there will be a lot of young men around the country hoping will happen to them one day, because a Kenya punter has won more than $2 million after correctly predicting the outcome of 17 football matches. Betting firm Sportspesa says Samuel Abisai placed about $2 on 2 separate jackpot picks. The company's boss, Roland Kariri, led a convoy including a stretch limousine to pick up Mr. Abisi from his home in the small town of Tika, 45 kilometers north of Nairobi. The payout is reportedly one of the biggest ever in Africa. The betting industry is rapidly growing across the West African continent. $2 million from $2. That's all the sports for now. Good luck if you ever try it one day.
So, in entertainment this evening, playwright Lateef Abubakar is famed for adopting catchy and attention-grabbing titles for his plays. They include What Can Come, Can Come, I Can't Think Far, and Thank God for Idiots. It rings a bell. Now it's Judas and Delilah. But do these titles influence patronage in any way? Also, Ori has more.
Precious, keep quiet. We stay at this level. What did you go and do at Nima? Now you've done such that I always go as integrated you. Now, what am I going to tell Yapono?
Lateef Abubakar's 8 years experience as a playwright has seen him come through with the most thrilling and witty titles: Malams and Pastors, I Can't Think Far, Thank God for Idiots, Divorce or Suicide, to mention but a few. Lateef, however, settles on his hilarious 2015 play, What Can Come, Can Come, as his most successful play, perhaps due to the conversations that birthed it.
I had planned to use the title for a political play, but looking at the hype around What Can Come, Can Come during the boxing bouts section, we felt like, no, this is the right target and time for you to use such a title.
To him, adopting a trendy title is the first trick to grabbing attention to good content.
You know, theater has been on the low side for a while. It's until recently that people are beginning to generate interest. So the title is one of the things that will catch their eye for the first time until they come and watch the main thing, and it works for us.
But what does the playwright consider before settling on a peculiar title?
Mostly, it's nice and easy to market and sell when people already have thumbs up about a particular title and idea, or they know of it, and then you ride behind that to sell your product.
Abubakar's latest play, Judas and Delilah, tells the tale of a nurse, Delilah, who is obsessed about a doctor, and a watchman, Judas, who is obsessed about the nurse. And when the two deceptive characters meet, who will outsmart the other?
That is for the patrons to come and watch at the auditorium. Who wins the war of traitor?
The play features an impressive cast, including Echo Smith Asante and Gloria Safo.
One more reason why I decided to be part of this, you know, it's in collaboration with the Ghana Ambulance Service, and so there is some bit of education in the play, actually.
Judas and Delilah premieres on May 6 and 7 at the Accra International Conference Center in partnership with TV3.
And former Gender Minister Nanoye Letha was a patron at the Shatawale headlined Vim concert. Also, Arai brings us how the former minister reacted to the Dancehall Stars songs on the night.
It is no secret, Nanoye Letha is one of the many die-hard fans of Shatawale. The respected women's rights and gender advocate performed Shatawale's Kakai on her birthday last year. She further admitted that the dancehall star is indeed one of her all-time best musicians. Now, to confirm her loyalty to the Shatta movement clique, Nanoye Letha was again at the Shatta Wale headline Vim concert on May 1. TV3 captured the former minister singing along to Shatta's 2017 banger, Ayo. She had fun with Hollits.
You got something I like.
Guess what? The SM fans now call her Shatta Oyelesa.
Shatta Wale's biggest fan.
Ayo. So
that's the 2360. Thanks so much for your company. I am Portia Gabo.
My name is Alfred Okansi. Remember that Do Not Love Me So Much comes up next. And